would you date somebody who's pro-life? Starting with you. I know it's hot seat, but...
Oh, man, why do I always gotta go first? Yes.
Into the mic?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I would.
Yes, because you can be pro-life and still pro-choice. And there's, as long as they're pro-life and not anti-choice, that's to me the key distinction.
Wait, can you clarify? I'm a little
could you be
confused.
both?
There are plenty of Democrats, if you poll Democrats, like for example, like a lot of Catholic Democrats, are Joe Biden, our own president, personally is pro-life. So he would not feel comfortable probably having a wife that submitted herself to procure an abortion, but is okay with it being legal. And I think that's the important distinction, not whether or not they personally are. So yeah, sure.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, I think generally. I don't know. It depends. If they're super pro-life to the point where it's like, oh, the mother's health is at risk and you still shouldn't abort, then I'm like, whoa, slow down there, buddy. I don't know how I feel about that.
Okay.
But without those extremes, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree about the extremes. If they are too extreme, then maybe no.
Okay.
But I would still date someone who's pro-life if they weren't too extreme.
Okay.
I'm kind of the same. I don't think it becomes a problem unless I get pregnant unexpectedly and then I don't want the child. But I'm sure if it was a good relationship anyways and I get pregnant, I would want the child anyways too, even though I am pro-choice. I don't think it gives that much of a conflict, obviously depending on the circumstance. But
Molly?
I agree. You can be pro-choice and pro-life at the same time, and that is really the only way that I would be able to be in a relationship, because I'm pro-choice, but I can also respect that the person that I love is not.
Okay. Charlie, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I'm just curious, when would you guys say human life begins?
That's like a philosophical question for the ages.
When there's a heartbeat.
Just casually ask.
When there's a heartbeat.
or no, I guess in the
see,
uterus.
now we have three different answers.
Yeah, actually.
So we have I will presume, a group of women, because you all self-described as women. I'm kidding. When does life begin?
Heartbeat.
I'm gonna still stay at birth, even though I know that your cells can be forming a brain and stuff in the uterus. But yeah, I think you're not fully a human until you're born.
Okay, and you said heartbeat, right? Okay.
I think it's very difficult to answer. I think mostly consciousness and personhood is really what people are seeking to identify. And I believe, I'm sure you happen to know, how many weeks was a full term of pregnancy?
It's a good question. I know very well. It's about 38, 39 weeks. 40 is like at the furthest of gestation.
40 weeks. So as far as I know, around 30 weeks is when you see typically most development of the fetus has taken place. So I would say around
way
there.
Earlier than that, but yeah. So heartbeat is right around 6 weeks. Brain waves are even before that. And you could do an ultrasound at you could start to do ultrasounds at 8 weeks, and you could see the full being right around 12 weeks. And right around 25, 26 weeks are now the earliest cases we have of babies that are able to survive outside of the womb. Does anyone have any other answers on that?
No, I mean, I'm not educated scientifically enough about the biology of all of it, but I agree. I think that life is a very subjective term. You could say when does the infant's body in the womb start functioning, or you could say when do they start perceiving their consciousness. And for me, it's when they start perceiving their consciousness, but truly I have no idea when that is.
Do you think it would be important to? Let me ask you this: if you knew for certain the baby, would you agree it's a baby? Is that a good term to use if it's in a womb? Is that a baby?
I think most people would say fetus.
Probably fetus. Yeah.
Okay, so what does fetus mean in Latin?
I think a fetus is a growing child. It's a
Yeah,
developing
you're right,
child.
Molly. It means a little human.
Yeah.
It's just using fetus is nothing more than a cope for what it is. It's a baby, right? So it's just
obviously not if we're here debating it. I don't think it's as settled
then
as
you don't have to use the word fetus. It just makes people feel better. It's obviously a baby.
No, I mean, obviously you wouldn't take a fetus that just has a heart and their brain isn't fully formed and be that's the same as a 1 month old.
Yeah.
We obviously see differences between development from then and there.
So, but then how about 30 weeks?
That's where it becomes a lot more contentious. But the point being is that we don't look at a fetus from its beginning stages and be yeah, that's the same thing as my 3-month-old cousin.
Hold on, that's a 9-month-old is not the same thing as a 1-month-old.
Okay,
right? So you can go through the progression of development continues. The question is, when does it start?
Yeah, that's $1 million question. I agree with that.
So
Do you
wouldn't-
think conception?
Of course. That's the only answer.
Most women, I don't believe, even know that they're pregnant before 6 weeks.
But
So like around like the heartbeats
Yeah,
and
but
stuff like that.
the knowledge of your pregnancy doesn't mean that you're not pregnant.
No. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying like practicality wise, there are many instances of women who have miscarriages without even ever knowing, because it might just present as like a very heavy cycle that month.
That's fine, but it doesn't make it any less a life,
So
right?
I
Sure,
have
go ahead, Molly.
an
No, but
interesting-
do you mourn that miscarriage in the same
Of
way you
course,
mourn like
100%,
an
yes.
abortion, like a conscious
Not the same way.
choice?
No, it's not the same way. No, but it's still a tragedy. A miscarriage is a tragedy, but
So
an
do you-
abortion.
Even if she doesn't
So-
know about it?
But an abortion is an act of human will. A miscarriage most times is not. Now, sometimes it can be a miscarriage because you drank alcohol and you didn't know you were pregnant, or you might have taken a drug that have side effects. But yes,
I have a
a
question.
miscarriage is a tragedy. Yes.
I have a question. So, do you care about the children once they're born?
I mean, I care a lot about them. Yeah. I do.
So, if say a woman got R-worded or something, or even if she just got pregnant and
Grid 1
kinda wanna
Motorsports
keep
donated $200.
Right?
Life is not subjective, and we know this because you
Anyway.
are speaking of killing.
Yeah, just
Why is it so easy for you ladies to kill kids? If your comfort
What a
and
good faith
lifestyle
question.
more important
I'm
than
not
a life
talking
you
about
have
anything.
created.
anyway, my question was, what was I saying? Oh, if
you were
yeah,
saying
so
if somebody
someone, someone got
someone
like
forced
R-worded
sex upon
or-
themselves. It's the
or
word you're.
even
Yeah.
like not even just that, but say like if the mother like was homeless or something, say
Mm-hmm.
like she didn't have a good life, do you still think that child deserves to be brought into the world just to suffer?
Well, so it's not a guarantee of suffering. Number one. One sec.
What if they were?
The answer is yes. The life should be brought into the world. There are twice as many people on the adoption waiting list.
There's so many people.
Well, let me ask you guys, and I don't. I'm just curious. How many abortions do you think there are a year in America?
I have no
Tens
idea.
of thousands, I assume.
Any other guesses?
No, I have no clue.
What if I told you there was over 1 million abortions every year?
That wouldn't surprise me at all.
But you went from tens of thousands to 1 million.
I mean, there's billions of people on the
No.
on the
Yeah, there's
so-
340 million in America. That's right. No, but do you think does it?
As far
does-
as like reported ones, because even
that
just
doesn't
reported
count-
data is going to be incomplete
that
because
doesn't count mifepristone, which is the chemical abortion that people can have
Right.
at home. It doesn't count Plan B, right? So,
and even if like abortion were illegal, for example, we stopped gathering data on like who procures abortions, there would be so many. There's so many now, even
Well,
with
not
states
true.
where it's still legal.
Texas, it's gone down
Even-
dramatically. So hundreds of
No,
thousands.
they're still happening. It's
Well,
just
no, they're happening,
not
but
being accounted
about
for.
90%
Women are
abortion.
just doing it to themselves.
Right, it's a 90% abortion reduction rate in Texas. I don't want to dwell on that too much, though. So there's 1 million abortions every single year, and there's twice as many people on the there's 2 million people actively on the adoption waiting list. So there's really no such thing currently, there could be, but currently, of an unwanted child. So there's 2 million people wanting to adopt, and there's 1 million people that have abortions every single year. So there's twice as many people that want to get a child. Now, there's a longer conversation about making it less bureaucratic without allowing bad people to adopt kids for bad reasons. I'm perfectly open for that conversation. But to answer your question, I don't love the premise. It's a really good question because a lot of people have it. I don't necessarily believe being born in poverty is a death sentence or is a reason to
Oh, of
terminate.
course not.
No. But abortion is a death sentence. So I don't think poverty should give you a death sentence.
Would you say abortion is murder?
Oh, of course, 100%.
Do you think that people who procure abortions, women specifically,
Yes.
a woman who procures an abortion should go to jail for getting one?
Absolutely, yeah. They're the moral equivalent
Wow.
of Auschwitz.
Really?
Yes.
I kind of
Millions
want
of
By the way,
millions of women are,
No,
are
not the
basically
women.
the same as like Nazi
Not the women.
death
No,
camp
the
guards.
women are victims. They're lied to. 90% of women do not see an ultrasound before they have an abortion. They have no idea what's happening to them. They're the victims here. It is the abortionists that are doing this. But let me ask you, and I mean this, have you guys ever seen an abortion on a video?
Wait, no, I'm sorry. If women are the victims here, why should they be jailed?
Well, I don't believe they should be jailed. I
You
think
just said they
the
should be
abortionists.
jailed.
How is it that
the
you could
abortionists,
believe
the
that abortion
doctors.
is murder, but a
no,
murderer shouldn't go to jail?
I didn't say that. The doctors, the abortionists, the people that call themselves doctors, the people that put women under general anesthesia and go into.
But the
But
woman is
women do,
asking for
they
it.
ask
They
for
are
it.
doctors. They're medical.
Are you going to
professionals.
just discount the accountability of the woman in
My current
that decision?
perspective is because the women are not given what is called informed consent, that the women should not be penalized, they should not be They shouldn't be penalized. In fact, they should be given grace from a system that has lied to them and has misled them. They are not given the full picture of exactly what's happening to them. Informed consent has not happened, so these women are the victims. The abortionists, one second, the abortionists are the ones that know exactly what's happening. And if you haven't seen a video of an abortion, I'm not going to say anything too graphic. It is one of the hardest things to watch. The baby fights, the baby struggles, the baby dodges, the baby avoids. They break the neck of the baby. They euthanize it to the spring. It's not a joke.
Sorry.
And then they tear it limb from limb through there. If you're trying to tell me that's,
That's like a
If you're talking
full-grown
about,
child.
yeah, like
Like-
they're
Hold on,
called
no.
dilation and extraction abortions,
No.
then yes,
Hold
it
on
can
a
look
second.
like that. But if you're talking
a baby
about,
has a backbone at 6 weeks and a spine. It has a complete figure. It's small. It's like probably as small
the
as
size of like a grape, yeah.
Yes, but by 8 weeks or 12 weeks, and you're talking about.
But the vast majority of abortions are performed in the first trimester.
Yeah, that's right.
So when you
and
just
so when
the
it-
type
when
of
is-
abortion that you described
trimester
is
was up to
literally
12
the
weeks.
like minority
Hold
of
on
the
a
time,
second.
and those are wanted pregnancies
said
because
they
usually
don't-
those women want those pregnancies. They weren't able
They
to
don't
carry
know
them
they're
to term
pregnant till they're 6 weeks,
because
to your point.
they weren't able to carry those children to term because of health risks to their own life or to the infants.
Right. So, without getting into that, no infant should be terminated because of health risk to the infant. Okay, that's insane. It's like you're going to kill the baby because the baby has health risks. That
Not
doesn't-
just health risks. These are
Oh, let me ask you.
these are medical.
Hold on, Down syndrome.
like
Should we
stillbirths
abort
or
Down syndrome kids?
No.
No.
Iceland has. They said if you have Down syndrome, you're done. So that's not a new phenomenon. They have gotten rid of Down syndrome. If you have a DNA test of Down syndrome, they abort the kid. I think that's cruel and unusual.
That is.
Yeah.
Okay, we agree. Good.
I think there are frivolous reasons to procure abortions, but I don't believe that just because there are frivolous reasons to get them, that means it should be outlawed.
But should murder be outlawed?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like you were saying,
Then
you even though you believe that those women have a hand in committing the murder and infanticide
they
basically
don't-
of their own children, they
They
shouldn't go to
don't
jail.
believe they have not been given informed consent.
Do
They
you
don't
have
know
that
what's
opinion
happening
with
to them.
people who are addicted to drugs?
Would-
Do you
I-
think only
I
drug
think-
dealers should go to jail, but not
Well,
people who
it
actually
dep-
try to buy drugs and
Well,
consume
it depends.
them?
It depends what drug it is. It depends the category, the class, the
Is there a single
repetition.
drug where you would say that somebody who is buying and consuming drugs that they are addicted to should not be going to jail, but only their drug dealer should be going to jail?
I mean, I think fentanyl and heroin potentially, but it's a completely separate issue because a lot of people know the informed consent of heroin and fentanyl. It's not. We have PSAs, we have billboards. Stop using fentanyl. Stop doing fentanyl. How many times have you heard that? Have you
Tons,
ever?
but they have a
Hold on,
chemical
hold on a
dependency
second.
now that prevents them
Hold on
from
a
being
second.
able to make that
How
choice.
often have we ever had an honest conversation with women in this country saying that having an abortion increases the chances for depression, anxiety, medication dependence?
So does having a kid.
Well, hold on.
Having children carries all of those
So-
same risks.
You think having
the money
children?
that goes into it.
You think having children
No,
is?
don't mischaracterize me.
No, that's
I'm
not true at
I'm
all.
not going to
Wom-
say that
women-
having a child necessarily gives you depression
Women who
or
have
any
children-
of
That's
that.
what she
thing.
said.
It can
That's
come
right.
with it.
It
Like
can.
postpartum depression, for example, is
Is it
extremely
so?
common
Is
among young
temporary and short-lived, and obviously
men. Not always.
For
Some
some
Fires.
people last
So
years.
is the depression
that's
from
temporary
abortion.
and short-lived. That's not permanent.
You
Yeah,
think
but when you're
years
in that,
of living
you're
with
not-
postpartum depression can simply constitute a temporary
Wait, so
medical
let's,
issue?
Let's theoretically even grant. So you're saying because of potential postpartum depression or financial burdens, the moral answer is allow women to go in.
No, that was never
to
my
clinics.
argument. This had
Okay.
nothing to do with morality. This was a completely separate question. I'm only saying that I feel like you're trivializing and downplaying how serious conditions like postpartum depression can be when you want to write it off as
No,
like a
it's
temporary
obviously-
medical
it's obviously
issue
real.
when it can be years-long battle,
Look,
especially if it's
having
left
children is a
untreated.
serious choice. So what percentage of abortions, according to the Guttmacher Institute, are not rape, not incest, and not life of the mother? What percentage would you
Probably
say?
the vast majority.
97%.
Yeah.
So is abortion now birth control, yes or no?
No, I don't think so.
I
But-
think that's situational to each and every
Molly,
person.
do you think that birth control, I mean, it could be called birth control in certain
Because
situations?
you're talking about over 1 million abortions, but there's tens of millions of women that are on birth control, that are that have IUDs, that take birth control pills. So obviously, that's not the only reason why.
But it's a
Or
form
that's-
of birth control. Is
It's
it
a
not?
form of birth
Because
control,
they're
sure,
not,
but
they're-
you
okay,
acknowledge that it's not the
it.
predominant form of birth control.
Well, no, I didn't say that. Hold on. I said it's birth control.
Yeah, but we're not disagreeing with the category.
Hold on.
I'm talking
So
about the
therefore,
prevalency
if
of it.
it's birth control, then why would we allow it to continue if it's not? If you put the rape, incest, life of the mother, which we can debate.
I
which
didn't.
But no, I'm going to put that aside for a second. Then why should we allow a horrific procedure to continue that has such heavy and dire consequences and results in a child not being able to live outside of the womb?
Because that's
You're
somebody's
loading it
choice.
so much by
Horrific.
saying a
Okay.
horrific
Subjective.
procedure.
Hold on,
Most
so-
women who procure abortions actually report being happy long term because they made the choice, because there's many different reasons why women get abortions. Some women aren't in a financial position to have a child at that time and actually decide to have children later.
How'd they get pregnant?
What do you mean? They had sex unprotected
So
or
wait,
an
so
accident.
they want the orgasm without the responsibility.
Do you think the majority of women are having orgasms in sex? Are you serious? Have you seen the studies on orgasm gaps between men and women?
I'll be honest. So they want all the pleasure. They want all, but it's you want all the loose lifestyle, but none of the
don't want a kid from
responsibility.
Now you're framing it like the punishment for having it should
Hold
like
on, it's a
orgasm should be
punishment?
punished. No, the way that you're framing it,
No,
which is
it's
that
not a punishment.
oh, you
It's
want the
called a cost.
loosey goosey parts of sex,
Hold
like
on.
the
If
orgasm,
you- if
but
you-
you don't want the responsibility of a child. It's like, yeah, some people want to be able to have sex.
Okay, no, you
and,
articulate it
not have
perfectly.
kids.
I'm going to be able to have sex how I want, and if I have to go put a dagger through, or have someone put a dagger through a child for me, then so be it.
Sure,
think?
I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that you're being morally clear, and basically it's my body. I can do whatever I want with it, even though. Let me ask you a question.
Even though, like I said,
if
most women
it's-
don't regret their abortions
Okay.
at all. Like the vast majority of women report happiness
Yeah,
and
I
being okay with their decision.
I
I'm
find
sure
that
you think
hard
that
to
they're
believe.
lying or they're
Wait,
indoctrinated
I have a
or
question.
wrong
So,
or
but
delusional.
if it's
yeah.
not your DNA, how is it your choice?
What?
If it's not your DNA, why is it your choice?
It is.
Definitely
No,
is.
Because
it's
Your
the
child
baby
has to
has its
carry
own
the
DNA.
child to
It's already in your
gestation.
partner's DNA, and then it forms into
It has its own unique DNA that's not yours.
Here,
It's part
this
of
is-
your DNA. It's
this is
50-50.
my
It's half. Oh, so should the man then be able
Hold
to
on.
have veto power over abortion?
Well, the point is the man isn't the one incubating the child. So
But I thought if it's about
my-
DNA.
If you
but
get
I never made the DNA argument. You did. The argument that I was going to make was, or I was going to ask you the question: do you think another person has a right to your life and your body?
Does another person have a right to? Well, technically, because abortion was legal when I was in utero, someone did have a right to my life and body.
Oh, hey,
And my mom chose life. Praise God. So did all your moms.
yeah.
My mom
the
actually wanted an
argument.
abortion.
Are you glad that she didn't have an abortion?
No.
So you would rather be dead?
I don't know. I mean, life can be
If
difficult.
she
I'm not
didn't
gonna
exist,
I'm
you
not
would
gonna
not
be
be
that
able
deep.
to even
It's an
know what you
asteroid on
never,
that one.
Yeah.
what you never materialized.
A couple people wanted to come in really quick. It looked like you wanted to come in. I'd like to give you an opportunity to speak. Then I think you had more Pixie than Molly. Go ahead.
It was just backtrack just on what he was saying
Go
on
for it.
not wanting to have the responsibility. I think that's really, I don't really think that makes sense because I don't think sex is just for reproduction. It's just like asking you, like every time, I'm not trying to bring in your wife, but every time you have sex with your wife, it's purely for reproduction. I feel like that is very inaccurate. So I mean, it's hard to expect everyone who isn't in a marriage to just not have sex just because they don't want to get pregnant or just because they don't want to have that responsibility.
Wait, did you even make the argument that sex is purely
No,
for...
I didn't.
I don't think you did.
But Angel's making a good point, and I want to give her credit for this. What she's saying, and it could be misunderstood that I was saying sex is strictly for reproduction. What I was saying is that everything in life has consequences and choices, right?
Correct,
And
yes.
at times, the mainstream predominant narrative is that sex comes with almost no downsides, and we're going to give you either the technology, the procedure, or whatever to try to limit those downsides. But the difference is that when my wife and I have sex, if she results to be pregnant, which she did, is that we live with that consequence, which happens to be a positive consequence, right? A huge blessing. Now, I understand what I'm saying is very, very radical and very unpopular, but the ideal should be far less people having premarital sex and trying to have sex within marital guidelines, or at the very least monogamous guidelines, okay? So that if there was to be a pregnancy, that baby could be loved and cared for and brought into this world. I understand it's a hard ideal to even grasp and comprehend in a world where everything is very sex positive and sex abundant, but it's an ideal that I defend nonetheless.
I mean, I don't think there's anything that's in contradiction with being sex positive, but also wanting to help prevent unwanted pregnancies. I would just say to those women and those people having sex that you should be using birth control and family planning methods to make sure that you don't have any unexpected pregnancies that you don't want to have, to skip the abortion part altogether. I don't think anybody loves their abortion. I only said that people just don't regret them.
Are you guys familiar with what's happening with the chemical abortion craze that's going on right now?
The pill that...
No, not the pill. That's different. I'm talking about where they're mailing chemical abortion packets.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where women are bleeding out and emergency room visits are up
What?
nearly 300%. You guys should look into it. It's a very serious thing.
But why is that?
Because
it's
abortion,
becoming harder to
about
get
to say,
abortions.
it's because women don't have access to safe abortion, so they
That's-
start resorting to these sorts
There's
of
no
methods
such
that are
thing as
way
a safe
dangerous.
abortion. Let me be
Yes,
honest.
there is.
Really? You
But
just said
it's
that there
safer
were
when it's
there were
legal.
millions of women that got an abortion, but you're going to say that none of them were
And
all of them died after?
all the babies did.
But did the women? Is it safe? Is it unsafe for a woman to procure an abortion?
But it doesn't. Hold on.
Answer that question. Is it unsafe for a woman to procure an abortion?
Every single
you
abortion.
know it's not unsafe. That's why you want to answer.
Hold on. Let them answer.
Every single abortion has a victim necessarily, and many times has a woman full of regret that we are now seeing. And I'm not going to make up numbers out of nowhere, but there is a growing community of abortion regret, including, you know, people that are speaking out and they're saying, I wish I wouldn't have, and it resulted in either difficulty to have children in the future or mental trauma.
Why do you care about their life?
That's a good question.
Or what about the moms like
question.
her mother, who I wish I actually had an abortion because that wasn't the life path that I wanted to go down, but it was one that I chose to make. Do you care about those?
I care about all people. So why do I care?
Do you care about that specific opinion? Somebody who regrets not getting an abortion.
Regrets not? No, I don't regret that mothers wanted to murder their kid.
But do you care about the opinions of moms who actually say, I have a child, but I'm not happy with having a family. I actually wish I had gotten an abortion. Do you think that
Why don't they just kill their kid then?
I don't think that it necessarily follows that if you regret not getting an abortion that you're going to commit murder.
But it's the same thing. Yeah, just put your kid up for adoption.
What about adoption?
If you regret it so bad, just give it.
I don't think most people at that point, they're not going to put their
you
kid
could drop
up for
a kid.
adoption.
Why not? You regret it.
No, I'm not saying anything's stopping them. I'm saying most people are not going to do that. But if you ask them, like, would you have rather had an abortion or a family? Some of them might say, yeah, actually, having a family and raising a child is very hard. I actually wish I had an abortion.
I don't doubt that opinion might be held.
Not everybody is fit to be a parent.
But let just answer your question really quick. Why do I care? If you cannot get the life question right, then you get every other question wrong. When does life begin? And I care about the innocent. I don't like bullies. I don't like evil. And I believe it is an act of evil to destroy those that can't defend themselves, including the 1 million babies in
Are you pro-contraception? Are you pro-women
personally, or I'm agnostic on the question politically, meaning it's legal, so be it.
Okay.
But I wouldn't consider it to be a good lifestyle choice, including most specifically hormonal birth control. Now, mind you, I'm over my skis on this being a man, but I will yield to the growing community of women on both sides of the political aisle that are ditching their hormonal birth control because they say, I don't like the way it makes me feel. They want an
IUD, which is a non-hormonal form
One
of
second,
birth control.
but there is a growing body of literature by Dr. Daniel Amen and many other people that show that the pill increases anxiety and depression and certain types of ideation. So again, I am not going to act like an expert on that, but that's a legit community online of people that are ditching hormonal birth control.
I think the way that you're like phrasing things of like, oh no, like murdering the babies is quite interesting, because I don't think in like any other example where we have a person and their life is somehow connected to someone else, if they decide like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, like I don't want to give my kidney to this person, I don't want to continue this blood transfusion, I don't want to continue this process, we wouldn't go and point at them and be like, you're a murderer. So I just think that there is a distinction to be made here when you're saying like, oh no, they're murdering babies, by just deciding that like, hey, actually I don't want this like fetus to continue using my lungs, my blood, my organs to continue developing. Like, would you call somebody who doesn't want to have like give a blood transfusion or give a kidney or something like that?
No, it's a good question. That's actually a good faith question. So if I had the specific type of blood type, okay, and in a hypothetical desert island, there happened to be a medical facility, and somebody right there needed a blood transfusion, and I said no, I would be complicit in their death. Yes.
Okay.
I'm saying that is the extrapolation of the hypothetical you articulated.
So if, what is
complicit
it?
To the point that you should be punished if you refuse to render aid to that person?
Aaron, let me finish. Aaron, let Pixie finish.
Yeah.
Okay, so if the government decided, hey, you know what, like let's say Joe Biden is put in the hospital and you're the only person for whatever reason in the world that can like give him a kidney, and you have to basically give him like constant transfusions of blood for like the next year, would be a murder if you decide not to do that?
Well, first I would do it, even though I can't stand Joe Biden. So, yeah, just for the record. And if it was only for 9 months, yeah, I'd do it.
And if you didn't do it, do you think you should be punished with jail time or worse?
It depends the type of informed consent that goes alongside of it, which goes back to why I believe women are lied to and women are victims in the abortion process. And yes, there are exceptions where women really know what's happening.
I was going to say, even
very, very rare. However, I don't think the law should go towards women. I think they are. First of all, I just think that there should be grace and forgiveness, because a lot of women go to abortions in crisis. They feel overwhelmed. They feel as if the world is against them. The abortionists, let me be very clear, the people that call themselves medical doctors that know better, that actually do the very damaging, graphic removal of the baby, those are the people that I think should be focused when it comes to the law. To your point, though, if for 9 months I would have to live a tougher life for another human being to live, I would do that.
Wait, but it's
What
not
about-
just wait, I want to be clear. Would, like what Erin was saying earlier, so do you think the government should be able to punish you for not doing that? Should you be able to go to jail, or should the government be able to send you to jail because you didn't want to give blood transfusions to Joe Biden for 9 months? Should the government have that ability?
It depends if I knew the totality, if there really were no other options. If I said if all of a sudden in this theoretical stranded desert island, in this abstract thing, and I had all the informed consent, and Joe Biden was dying, and he said, "Help me out, bro. I need 9 months of your blood," and I said no, I would be at the very least third-degree murder. Yes.
Do you think that
in
there
that stranded? Because all of a sudden, if I let him go and I say, no, I'm not going to give you my blood, I'm not going to give you my stuff, I personally wouldn't be able to live with myself. If I have something that I don't need, maybe you guys agree or disagree. If I have something that won't, and this is my own personal life, you guys could disagree, but if I have something that will make my life more difficult for 9 months, to use the analogy, right? But it meant another life could continue, I would sign up in a second.
Do you think there's ever been a woman who has procured an abortion that had totally informed consent and still went through with the decision?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
But
do you think that woman who has informed consent?
That's way too hypothetical. And the answer is no, because how could you find them? How could you investigate them?
Because it happens every single day. There's actually a case right now in Texas of a woman who is actually trying to go to cross state lines to get an abortion. And Texas has said that when she returns, they want to put her in jail.
Yes. So I don't believe in that, number one. Okay. And I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to paint me on the extreme of punishing women for abortions, and I'm going to remain hold and fast that I think women are the victims in the abortion industry. They get lied to by Planned Parenthood. They get lied by the abortionists. If I was in your chair, I'd be doing the exact same thing.
But you deny that there's any women that have informed consent in this decision.
No, I didn't
you
say
believe that the vast majority of people that get abortions are deluded into getting them.
I said, of course there are, nor should the law or the policy be focused towards women. And the vast majority, 95%, we know this from studies by pro-life groups, and we know this by studies, not even just by pro-life groups, by Planned Parenthood.
I was going to say by bias groups.
Well, hold on a second. Do they administer an ultrasound before an abortion? Yes or no? The answer is no. They don't.
Some states they do because it's mandated by those state laws, yeah.
Well, not before. Those states have completely eliminated abortion now after the fall of Roe. But
there's no abortion? Or is it that those abortions are just happening in unsafe ways because women can't go to doctors to get them?
Well, many
do you really think that states...
Hold on, let Charlie
They're doing abortion tourism, many of them. They're coming to states like this. But let's take California, for example. Let's get less abstract. Where we hear right now, if one of you want to get an abortion down the street, they will not give you an ultrasound before. And just so you know what an ultrasound is, it's a three-dimensional interactive image of the baby fetus, whatever you want to call it, in the womb before termination. They will not show that. And so to answer your question, first of all, I think it would be so unrealistic, and I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to play into a narrative that really doesn't exist too much. You could use the Texas example that Republicans want to punish women for having abortions.
They do.
Hold on a second. I don't like that argument. I don't, because from 12 years old, from the first sexual education young girls have in this country, is they look at abortion as normal, as fine, and so they've been indoctrinated. That's why I continue to believe that they are victims of a bigger scheme. They're victims of a bigger scheme, and they should not be punished or held accountable. Instead, you go after the industry itself that knows better.
There's no comprehensive sex ed in this country. I grew up in Texas, and the sex education that I was given, to the extent that I was abstinence only. So them saying, don't have sex, basically. Well, I mean, and another thing, I take issue with something else that you said earlier, which is that, they've reduced abortions because they've made it illegal. But you know that just because something is illegal doesn't mean it doesn't happen anymore. But murder is illegal, but murder happens.
But birth rates are up. So that's how we know it's working.
Were you going off of birth rates, or were you going off the fact that there are 0 reported abortions because doctors refuse to perform them because they don't want to go to jail?
I guarantee you there are back alley abortions happening.
Right.
Far less than used to happen when the clinics were open.
Should those women have to get back alley abortions?
Well, they shouldn't get abortions at all.
But they're going to. It's just a matter of whether it's going to be safe or not.
Okay, again, that's the murder example. There's still a lot of murders, and I'm glad murder is illegal on the books. It's also the R-word example. It's also those. So I could apply it equally. Of course, there will always be people that break the law. And there will always be people that produce the most graphic, horrific content, illegally online. That doesn't mean the law should not exist. The law needs to be a reflection of morality, and most importantly, the fundamental principle, the defense of the innocent.
How about liberty? Shouldn't it be within people's purview to engage in family planning or make those decisions for themselves?
What is liberty?
Liberty is a concept that has been hotly debated by many political theorists, scientists, philosophers, but liberty is one having the autonomy and self-determination to be able to make as many free and fair choices in their life and society as as possible.
Fair. And so if liberty hurts somebody else, is it still liberty?
No, because now
Okay.
you're infringing upon other people's
So
liberty.
we have
so
clar-
it comes in
one sec.
contact with other people's rights all the time.
Right. So we have clarity but not agreement. I view abortion by being a violation of the liberty principle because there's a victim. You don't view it that way. So we have reasonable disagreement.
Fundamental disagreement.
Yes, we have reasonable disagreement, but there's obviously a victim, right? There's a baby that needs to be scraped aside, cast and put into a trash can. That is a victim. Therefore, it's the violation of the liberty principle that you articulated.
Brian, I want to ask you a question. Do you think that it's consistent in Charlie Kirk's...
Yeah.
Do you think it's consistent in Charlie's philosophy to say that a woman procuring an abortion, which is akin to murder, should not have to go to jail even though she's effectively murdering her own child or future child?
Well, truthfully, I'm not really well versed on this topic, so.
From what you've heard so far, do you think that if somebody conflates abortion with murder, that
I'm
the
not
person
the
who
politics
gets
guy.
one?
I'm the dating guy.
Yeah.
But it came up. Sorry, repeat the question.
Just, do you think it's consistent in someone's philosophy to say simultaneously that abortion is murder, but that the person who actually asks for that murder effectively should not have to go to jail? Do you think that's consistent, or do you think that doesn't make sense?
I'm not even following. Sorry, I've got.
Think about it.
If somebody
conceives of abortion as murder,
Yes.
do you think that if they engage in getting an abortion, aka murder, they should be excluded from going to jail because they're just a victim? Do you think that's consistent?
I don't honestly.
You're not
I don't
representing.
know.
You're not representing my argument.
That's
That's
fine.
my answer.
There's
I
an
don't
important
know.
wrinkle
I don't know.
that you're missing, which is that the woman, in my view, in any objective analysis, does not get the full picture of what's being done to her, the full picture of the being inside of her. So that's a very important element you're missing here, right?
But I was saying that even if in the cases that they do, and they choose to get an abortion, should they go to jail? And you wouldn't engage with the hypothetical. I want to see if Brian will.
So let me be honest. If they did engage in that and all that, there should be a national forgiveness for those women.
Okay.
And that's what I would say. And in those very rare cases, because what we're talking about is improbable, it would be, first of all, insanely unpopular, and I'm very aware of that. But I offer grace and forgiveness to women that have had abortion, not to the people that have conducted them.
I do want to move on here a little bit because Charlie has to leave in about 15, 20 minutes. So last thing on the abortion thing, just really quick, and I think we might have touched on this before, I guess just for Pixie and you, just since you guys seem the most vocal on this topic, do you think that a woman not being financially ready is a valid reason to get an abortion?
Yes.
Yeah.
All of you? Okay.
Yes.
What about parental responsibility? Maybe they could be financially ready, but they just don't want to the increased burden, I guess, to be a parent. Is that also a valid?
That's valid.
Valid reason.
I don't think the government has a right to basically dictate your bodily autonomy. That's
Yeah.
where I draw the line.
I-
Even
so
if
I have a-
another being
sure.
is dependent on it.
So I have a question for you. What do you say to a man who is not financially ready or who is not perhaps not ready for the parental responsibility? What do you tell him?
It's his choice too.
Should he have not had sex? Is that what you tell a man?
No.
No.
I think they should have been more careful, but I wouldn't say overall that they're responsible for engaging in sex. Accidents happen
No,
with
but
everything.
what is the outcome for a man who is not financially ready or does not want the parental responsibility?
Paper abortions. They call these paper
Well, I
abortions. You
think
can write away your
men's
parental
rights advocates prefer, I believe that the term is legal paternal surrender.
Legal paternal surrender
Is the
solution to this,
Yeah.
where men can surrender their rights and any claims to parenthood of that
And
child.
they wouldn't
if
have to
they
pay
so
child
choose.
support.
Right.
Yeah.
Or yeah, exactly. I think that
But
is the.
Do you think that that's
It's an imperfect solution, but it's the closest thing that you could get because you would never have the say over whether or not somebody carries a pregnancy to term. Somebody else.
Okay. Pixie, any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I guess I just I'm in similar alignment. I think again, I think there's a legal question of abortion and there's a moral question as well as when it comes to giving birth. And that's why I think even morally, even though I might not personally have an abortion or whatever, I just don't think the government has a right to tell you what to do
Well,
with your body.
if you can, try to actually answer the question. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, you're
what
right.
do you tell? Because in all 50 states in the U.S., whether there's abortion rights or not in that state, in all 50 states, if the woman chooses to proceed with the pregnancy and has the child, there's certainly going to be some either financial or parental responsibilities that men cannot so easily do away with.
Yeah.
Do you think that it's?
I understand what you're saying. I
What
think-
do you tell a man though who's like, I don't want to have to pay child support. I don't want to have to be parentally responsible for the child. What do you say to
Yeah, I
a man
think
in
you
that
have
situation?
a legal right to do that. That doesn't necessarily.
Well,
mean-
men don't have a legal right to do that in
Or you
any
should
state.
have
They
it.
ought
But it's
to.
really interesting how people who are in favor of abortion become Bronze Age pro-lifers when it comes to the male side of this.
Well, no,
because you
wait, how-
I'm
most
consistent. I've said that legally. Oh, I don't think the government should have a say on what you do with your bodily autonomy. And I think legally, a man should have the government shouldn't like necessarily force you to claim childhood or like parenthood over a child that you don't claim to have. Does that make sense? I'm saying that there's like a legal consistency here that I believe in.
Okay, so you're in favor of legal paternal surrender.
Yeah.
Perhaps in states where abortion is legal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And men
Okay.
are already surrendering their children, even without that not happening.
See, I don't
men
think- I think men
men
should
can
be
walk
forced to take
out
care of their kids.
on
Yeah.
their men can already walk out on their
opposite.
children.
I
Men
think-
can walk out on their children.
think
They already do.
morally
I think
you
it would be
should-
better.
Of course.
But I don't think, yeah, I think there's a difference between like moral and legality, and that's where I think we would agree.
Yeah, men are already doing this. I think it would just be better to regulate it and bring it above board and make it like a formalized legal thing.
Yeah. So I have a question. You're obviously very pro-life. Are you a vegetarian?
I am not a vegetarian. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm vegan.
Doesn't sound
even
very
though I'm
pro-life.
vegetarian.
Slay.
Well, a cow is not a human being.
But it's a
It
life.
was a life.
It's not a
more
human
life
life.
than a
I think he's
uterus.
pro-human.
Hold on a second.
Pro
human life.
You do know
Human
that
supremacy.
vegetables are alive too.
Broccoli screams when you pull it
Yes.
from the ground.
So,
True.
and by the way, there is a moral difference between a cow or a salmon or swordfish than a human being.
I don't think she was
honestly
equating them, but she was just saying that they have the capacity for life,
I think they're
suffering,
still
like,
alive.
or
Well,
like I think
That's why I said,
a cow.
hold on, rewind the tape. I said, when does human life begin? I did ask that question, right?
No, I don't
Which-
think she was calling that into question. I think she was just asking,
I
like,
was
do
just
you
saying in
extend that to
general,
animals? Because most people
pro-life.
won't
No,
extend that to
I do
animals.
not. No,
Animals
I
are
think
life.
that we as human beings have supremacy over animals. Yeah, we should watch and care for animals to the best of our ability, so we should kill them humanely. But
What is this? Come on now.
That's
what
what
are
the
you
abortion
saying?
argument.
well, hold on.
Made abortion.
Wait, if you really think a human life and a cow is similar, then
A
that's,
cow is better than a human life. let me
Similar
just
as
say
far as
that.
like moral worth
Cows
and
are
moral
so sweet.
consideration. I don't think that there's going to be like a comparison as far as like in the way that you're making, I guess. But like people feel this attachment to animals already, like they're pets, right? Like a dog or a cat. Honestly, if you ask most people, would you rather save a stranger in a fire or your pet,
My
your
pet.
your dog or your
Well,
cat
that's
in a
screwed up
fire?
morally.
Most people would say,
No,
I'm
you're
gonna
right.
save my pet.
Yeah, because that's screwed up because they follow their heart, not their head.
Why
I
my
I have a
cat
question.
matters.
Wait,
Well,
You shouldn't
Following
follow
about-
your
I,
heart.
really
That's
quick, but I do
a
want to
bad idea.
move.
No, you
move
are
on.
right. Most people would save their dog, or a
Yeah.
stranger went drowning, they would save the dog. You're
Yeah.
right, and that's
If it was their dog.
that is a
I think
yes,
if it was
your
just a dog they didn't
and
know
a
they wouldn't.
stranger. But to answer your question, no, I'm a meat eater and I'm proud of it.
He's a proud meat eater, folks.
Oh wait, really quick. You asked if I would date a pro-lifer, Lila, who comes on your show? What's her name?
Lila Rose.
Lila Rose.
Oh,
she's
I
been
would
on
date Lila Rose.
3-4
Okay,
times.
I will
Wait,
become
huh?
pro-life for you, Lila. You're beautiful. So,
All right, I'll let her know, and perhaps.
Yeah,
well,
there you
she's
go.
married. Okay, all right. Let's pump the
I
brakes.
missed.
pump the
I
brakes
missed
here.
my opportunity.